Hello, Margarita here. Welcome to the Rise Up with Margarita show. Every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, I hop on and really help those leaders of the new earth rise up, take their stand, create their epic businesses, activate the light in the world. And so if that's you, welcome. This is your place. So today's topic is the top 4 money beliefs that block light workers from money. And this is a super important topic that I wanted to speak into today, because the thing is that a lot of light workers, empaths, starseeds, they have a powerful purpose. You have a powerful purpose. And a lot of times they might be like, well, I'll just do it in the comfort of my own home, right? I'll just keep it to myself and just energetically do work in the ether, right? But the reality is, when you are really showing up as a leader of the new earth, that means you're being in leadership, right? It means you're actually doing action and services, whether it's like you're providing services, doing products, that actually help transform the world, right? And that you're actively communicating that out and expressing that out into the world. And one thing I've noticed is that that can be a place where you can either, really step in and be in your power about, or you can have money blocks around it, right? And money blocks are, in case you're not familiar with this, right? Money beliefs, money blocks. It's really referring to the belief system you have about money that might be blocking you from your abundance. And that's really what a money story or a money belief is. And a money belief can be actually neutral. Maybe it's not something like terrible or, not aligned, right? It could actually be just like, oh, okay, this is my belief about money, right? But one thing I've known is that light workers, empaths, and starseeds, they have a lot of preconceived notions about money, and it is holding you back from being in the fullness of your power. Because a lot of light workers will be like, yeah, I'm in my power, love and light, y'all, right? But that's only based on feeling powerful. Feeling powerful is not the same as being in your power. It is easy to feel powerful. If you're enraged, if you are pissed off, that can feel super powerful, but that's not being in your power, right? Or it can be, like maybe you had like a really awesome download and then now you feel like you're in your power, right? True power is a cultivation. It's not like one download and then you're set, right? It's a cultivation. It's a way of living. It's a frequency that you cultivate, that you really are in the frequency of, right? Like it's literally you're the frequency of this frequency of true power, your true power, to be more specific. And so a lot of light workers will be like, yeah, I'm in my power. But then I ask them, okay, how is your relationship with money? And they're like, oh, I hate money, right? Like money's evil, like, and all that stuff, right? And it's like, and then not surprisingly, I find out that, they're struggling with their bills or, whatever, or they're not getting clients or that kind of thing, right? And this is all a reflection. So understand that how you approach your money and your wealth and that consciousness of wealth is going to be connected to how you do everything else in your life, because that's really how power works, your true power, right? And I'm talking about your true power, not artificial power, which is what some people think true power is about. They think being in your power is about being aggressive or manipulating someone or causing suffering. That is the old paradigm version of power. That is the type of power that is artificial, it's not real, and it's not based on the true power, because your true power comes from God, right? And as an extension of God, you too are God, and you're expressing that divine frequency. That is true power. So when you are in that divine frequency, you are also able to have a consciousness, not only about being in your power, right, but also the wealth consciousness. And it is a consciousness, right? Someone actually shared, I think it was like a couple of reels ago, I did a reel on light workers and money. And, one person actually said, oh, well, it is neutral, but, fiat currency, meaning like paper money and all that stuff coming from the government, is evil. It's all of suffering. And the reality is that's part of the old paradigm function and approach to money, right? And as light workers, and if you're here, you're probably a light worker, a starseed, an empath, right? And your job is to be able to transmute this shit, okay? You like, instead of getting stuck in the whole, I'm in the trauma of like my pain, it's like, if you've got trauma work to do that, right? And then really open into, okay, what's next? What's next for me to raise my frequency? And it's not about spiritual bypassing either, because sometimes people will be like, oh, well, that's spiritual bypassing to like not deal with your shit. I'm saying deal with your shit and also open into that higher frequency, because that's also how you deal with your shit, right? Because when people kind of stay in the like working on it phase, like sometimes that just becomes like a crutch, right? Like, because there's a time when you do the work, and then there's a time when you then go to that next level, right? And so in regards to money, that gets to be a next level for you wherever you're at, right? Like maybe you have a pretty healthy relationship with money already. Awesome, right? There's always a next level to go to. If you're not really connected with your money in a healthy way, awesome. I'm going to share about that, and how you can break through some of this stuff, because you deserve to also be in your power around your money as well. So here's what it looks like. I'm going to share with you what it looks like when you don't have a healthy relationship with your wealth. Then I'm going to share with you what it looks like when you do have a healthy relationship with your wealth. Then I'll go into the 4 money beliefs that block light workers from money, and then what you can do if you're ready to upgrade your abundance, because there's so many ways to do that. So what it looks like when you don't have a healthy relationship with your wealth, you will be in scarcity with your money. The idea, and when I say scarcity, it's like that whole idea of there's not enough, right? So just a heads up, you probably have noticed there's already a scarcity programming, just like there's a fear programming that's being rolled out into society, which so many people are responding to. There's also a scarcity program that is also being implemented, deployed, because it really is like a weapon, right? Into our collective, into society. And so it's this whole thing of like, there's not enough. You don't have enough health. You don't have enough money. You don't have enough food. You don't have enough for your loved ones. You don't have enough for your family. You don't have enough time, right? You don't have enough money. You don't have enough, right? That is scarcity. And when you're caught up in that, believing that there's not enough to go around, then that can be dangerous, right? Because then you will be making decisions from that place of scarcity. And whenever, guaranteed, whenever you make a decision from fear and from scarcity, and from feeling limited, you will always make the wrong choice. Guaranteed. Like I will say that, right? The second way that it can look like when you don't have a healthy relationship with your wealth and your money is that you can't pay your bills, or maybe you're struggling with your bills, right? And even that, even if you were to be in that, and even that can have a consciousness in itself, right? Because you can still have a negative account and be like, well, this is not my reality, because I know I'm here to, be super abundant as a light worker. So I know this is not even real. And the reality is you'd be right about that if that's what you said, right? The third thing that it looks like when you don't have a healthy relationship with your wealth is that you will be repulsed by money. It will repulse you. You'll think it's gross. You just like, it feels icky to you to talk about money, especially to have money, right? And so, guess what? If you're repulsed by something, like viscerally repulsed by something such as like money or your abundance or your wealth, then guess what you'll be blocking? Guess what you're going to be pushing away? And so that's really important to take note of, right? Like just notice as I'm sharing where this is landing for you, if any of this is feeling true to you at all, or if it's not, just be really honest with yourself. Because when you're honest with yourself and you kind of assess where you're at, then you can grow, because you can grow if you know where you're at and where you want to go, right? And number 4, you have a hard time receiving money. A lot of light workers, especially when they're starting out with their spiritually conscious business, have a lot of stories about what receiving money is about, right? And I'm seeing someone here saying 100% with like lots of fire emoticons, right? And it's just super important that you allow yourself to receive. Because if you're not allowing yourself to receive, and I'm not talking just with money, I'm talking about with love, with joy, right? Like anywhere you're holding back, with love, with your health, with your, joy, with anything else, you are also holding back on receiving money. And that's really kind of like how all of this connects into each other, right? And so I want you to like think about that for a second, is that this is how the consciousness works. If you are holding back on receiving love, you're also going to be holding back on receiving money. And if you think that like, oh, I receive love enough, right? Well, then look at your bank account. Is it a reflection? Are you truly receiving? Are you truly offering your services or your products as a light worker who creates amazing transformation through your offerings? And are you offering that to people? And, is the pricing aligned, right? Is it like, if it's not aligned, it would be something like $1 for, I'm being super dramatic and obvious here, right? Like, like you'd be charging $1 for like a beautiful, amazing crystal, like wire wrapped crystal that's been blessed and, has been infused with light frequencies, right? And if you were to charge like $5 for it, that would be super not aligned. And so this is, when you're allowing yourself to receive, you're also in that frequency of your worth, right? So that's what it looks like when you don't have a healthy relationship with your wealth. So here's what it looks like when you do have a healthy relationship with your wealth. And by the way, I'm seeing folks popping in here, so I'm just saying hello to everyone here. Just lovely, Jaever, Blue Avian Clothing. I love that. That's an actual company name, Blue Avian Clothing. That's awesome. Deidre's here. Mystic Marianne. Good to see you. Good to see you. Glad you're here. And also, I'm looking on Facebook too. Don't want to miss those folks. Hi, Melinda. Good to see. Good to see you. So yeah, so now we're going to talk about what it looks like when you do have a healthy relationship with your wealth, okay? So number one, you have an abundance mindset with money. You see money as abundant in the world. You see as money coming back to you all the time. No matter what you've got in your bank account, you're like, yeah, I am like super abundant. And, light workers will be like, yes, I'm abundant with love and joy. Yes, you also get to be abundant with money, right? Like, because they don't want to like talk about the money. So it's like, if you see yourself avoiding talking about money, like, look at that, get curious about that. And so you will have an abundance mindset with money. And meaning that you're going to see it as just like, there's enough for me, right? There's like, if I see someone making a lot of money, I don't need to be feeling threatened about it, right? Because there's a lot of money to go around, there's a lot of money for me too, right? And then the second thing is you will not only be able to pay your bills, but you'll also manage your money well. And that's really important because if you are a light worker, and especially if you are a light worker who's a new earth leader, meaning you're actually in leadership with what you are sharing in the world, creating in the world, then you will also be managing your money well, right? Because that's what you do when you're an abundant, wealth consciousness light worker. And then thirdly, you'll be embracing your money. You will embrace your money. You're not going to think it's really gross. You're not going to have these stories of like, oh my God, like, how disgusting it is to like touch money, to talk about money, to like charge for money, right? Like they are actually embracing their money. They're actually like, yeah, of course I'm going to be being abundant here, right? Of course I'm going to be, making a lot of money while making a lot of impact, right? You don't need to choose. And that's part of the abundance mindset. The scarcity mindset feels like I need to choose. I need to choose between being in integrity and being abundant. Like those are two different worlds, right? To the light worker who's in scarcity. But for the light worker who is having a healthy relationship with their wealth, they say, I get to have it all. I get to have it all. I get to have the amazing relationship, the amazing love relationship. I get to make a big impact with my clients and, whether it be services I'm providing or products I'm offering. They're feeling really awesome afterwards. They feel transformed, and I'm charging, my aligned pricing for the level of transformation I'm providing. I have an awesome house. I can provide for my children or my family or, whatever, like whatever your priorities are, you get to have all of it. That is the abundance mindset. You don't need to choose. You just don't, right? You don't need to be like, okay, will I eat today or will I choose love today, right? Like, I mean, what an insane question, right? Like, you get to have it all. You get to have the money. You get to have, you know, delicious, wonderful, nourishing food whenever you feel like it, right? But you first must be able to open into that frequency, right? Because if you still believe the either or thing, then that's what you're going to cultivate and that's what you're going to create in your reality. But if you truly are opening into the yes, like I'm blasting open and I get to have it all, right? And you're truly in the belief of that, then you will bring that into your reality, right? Super important. And fourthly, you are open to receiving money, speaking of what we were just talking about, and set up systems to easily receive money. And so, that's something that I share with my clients, how to create these systems, because really that's how you make things easier for yourself. You create systems around it, you create, policies and, if need be, you have contracts, depending on what kind of things you're offering. And you also have systems in place so that no one's like nebulous about like, oh, what do I do there? Like they're actually called standards of protocol, right? And that's something that I have in my business, and I highly recommend that you have for yours as well, where there's a system for that. There's a system for this. So you're not like guessing and trying to reinvent the wheel all the time. You actually save time and you also save yourself money. And then you are able to focus on your zone of genius, right? Because if you're too kind of caught up in the whole, oh, but what should we do about that? And what should we do about this? Then you're like wasting your precious brain cells on stuff that you should have policies around, right? And so that's when you're a spiritually conscious entrepreneur and you're setting things up right and you're setting your systems in place. You've got you got stuff like, in a flow. And same thing too with money. So make it easy for people to give you money, right? If they have to like jump through like 5 or 10 different hoops to like connect with you or talk to you or buy from you or whatever, it's like you're making it too hard, for you to receive money. So you get to have that. Right? I'm seeing some confirmations here. Someone's saying, I needed this confirmation, so glad to hear it. And someone said, me too. Yeah, so good. See, this is a really timely topic, so important. Um, Melinda's saying, it reminds me of the reel you did with all the thoughts in your head. Yeah. Like I have, it's like, all this stuff is such juicy, it's like juicy fodder for content creation, like you just look at it, right? So when you're open to receiving money, you just make it easy for people to give you money. So like you set up your system, or maybe you have a funnel in place, or maybe you have like a store, like whatever your thing is, like you make it easy for people to give you money, rather than you must jump through this hoop and then this hoop and then that hoop. It's like just like make it easier for people, right? um Ahista's sharing, thanks for this. I undercharged for my services today. I hear you. And then she puts the emoticon of the monkey with hands over the eyes. Yeah, like don't judge yourself for that. Like just like the fact that you are realizing now that you've undercharged is huge. It's huge in a good way, because you can't do shit to up level if you don't know what's not working anymore. And so you're noticing what's not working anymore, right? And that's awesome. So here are the 4 money beliefs that I promised you I'd talk about that block light workers from money. Okay. The number one money belief that blocks light workers from money: it's not spiritual to make or have money. Wrong. It's wrong. That's wrong. It's not real. Okay. So that's one money belief: is it's not spiritual to make or have money. And this is super common with a lot of light workers, people in the spiritual community. Why? Because there are a couple reasons. One of them, I'll just say really quickly, and I'm not going to go too deep into this, but there's a programming that is being geared towards light workers, and starseeds because we are super powerful. And what do you do when you see someone who's super powerful and they don't know they're super powerful yet? You put fear into them, right? You put fear into them. And in this way, it is about like, let's make light workers and starseeds petrified about their power. Let's make them petrified and repulsed by their own power in the world. Let's make them petrified and repulsed by money and their abundance. What an awesome program that is. It's super effective, right? But a lot of light workers have just kind of run with that as their operating system, right? And you don't need to. You don't need to. Muñeca Mullen says, please post this on the page. I need my friends to see this. I always do, so no worries there. So yeah, that's a super powerful belief that it's not spiritual to make or have money. Because guess what you'll do? If you don't think money is spiritual or, to make or to have, you will not make or have it because you don't want it, right? Because you will choose to be spiritual instead of evil. I mean, I get it. You'd rather be like, connected to your God self and all that rather than being evil. And that's a good thing. I would hope you'd want that. However, make sure it's based on reality, right? So that's the number one money belief that blocks light workers from money is it's not spiritual, to make or have money. Oh my God. Ermexpleadocious, what a name, is saying we are doing it for them. Poverty mentality or poverty vows. Ooh, yes. True that. That's very true. Once the programming gets instilled and then we just run with it, then we are propagating the program, right? This program of poverty, this program of scarcity consciousness, right? And you get to break that vow. That ain't a vow. I invite you to break that vow. I'll just say it that way. Number 2, money belief that blocks light workers from money. Money is evil. That's like false, right? Money is not evil. There's a difference here, right? Because, as I was mentioning earlier in this episode, someone had said how, fiat currency, meaning like, stuff like paper money and coins and stuff is like full of evil and all that, right? And the reality is, on some level, I agree, right? Because it has been created in that old paradigm of like, let's manipulate people with this money, right? Like, let's create scarcity around this money. Like, not everyone can have this money. It's manipulative, it creates suffering and yada, yada, right? And that is all true. And you are here to transform that. You are here to transform that. And that's something I teach about, right? You've seen it in my reels, but also I teach that to my clients so that it really becomes this understanding rather than, oh, logically, I get that, right? It's like this understanding that, you get to transform it. Money isn't evil. Money is neutral, right? And even if there were these, the way it was produced back in the day, yeah. 3D Elements is sharing, energy has its own energy that is powerful enough to suck you into another dimension. True, right? And so you want to be mindful about where you're putting your energy. Where are you putting your energy? Where are you focusing your energy, right? And this is part of that, right? Because, if you are believing that money is energy, that will be where you're putting your energy. And that will block the shit out of your money. I'll tell you that. Because if you think money is evil, you're not going to want to have anything to do with it. So, and I'll tell you a quick story. You probably heard, like, if you watch my reels and you actually read my captions, which I highly recommend that you do, I share a little story about, one thing, my father, he was really successful with what he did for a living. And, but I would always hear him when he'd pay his bills, he'd like be grumbling, as he's paying his bills, more money, more problems, right? And I grew up with that, right? So the reality that I grew up with was you get more money, you get more problems. So I didn't want more problems. So let's just like not make more money, right? That was my logic at the time. Was like, well, I don't want to have more problems, so let's just not do anything with money, So as a result, I ended up living in a roach infested closet in New York City's Hell's Kitchen for a brief stint of time because that was my belief, right? Because I'd rather like be in a roach infested, you know, place than take care of myself because of this money belief. How intense is that? Right? So obviously that's not the problem anymore, right? Like I've since transcended that. Oh, I love this Mystic Marion. Uh, More money, more investments. Yes. Or and or more money, more impact. More money, more impact. Yes. Yes. And I love this other recommendation. More money, no problem. Ooh, you guys are good. Keep it going. I'm loving this. What you're doing right now is you're transmuting the money is evil thing. You're actually putting it into our chat box here. Um, and Melinda's sharing too, lots of anger around money in my home growing up. Yeah, it's like a tough topic for a lot of families, a lot of couples even, right? It's like, you know, so, and Eve is sharing, oh, you are dragging me with the truth. Yes. And it's not dragging, it's lovingly pulling you along. Right? So, the third money belief that blocks light workers from their money is this is a big one. I need to work hard for the money. That getting money is hard work. Money is hard to come by, right? Like, I mean, if any of you grew up with that saying, money doesn't grow on trees, right? Meaning scarcity mindset, it's not abundant, so don't wish for it, right? And so that's the mentality there is that, you need to work hard for it. You need to drag yourself through the mud and the dirt and the gauntlet of suffering in order to make money, right? And that is the belief, and that is so not true. That's so not true. That might have been true at one point. I'll give you that. Like in the old paradigm, that was the belief, you know. And my father like believed that to a certain extent, right? And so this is super, super important is to realize that that is a myth. You do not need to work hard for your money. It gets to be easy, right? So you don't need to work hard for the money. But that is the third money belief that blocks light workers from money is that I need to work hard to make money. Because guess what? If it's going to be super hard and if it, causes you turmoil because it's so hard, guess what you're not going to work for? You're not going to work for that money because it's going to be that perception of, ooh, this is hard, right? Excuse me. Melinda's sharing, my parents said all of this scarcity, like, whoa, right? Yeah, absolutely. And then the fourth money belief that blocks light workers from money is it's greedy to want excess money, meaning like the mentality there is I'll just pay my electric bill and I'll pay enough so that my child can have food or that I can pay the rent. But outside of that, no. Like that's it. That's all I need. I don't need to be greedy, right? Watch your words when you talk about your relationship with money because you're not being greedy to want to enjoy life, right? Like if you really want to have a beautiful house to live in someday, like, I mean, maybe you're gonna, like, someone would, with that mindset of it's greedy to want excess money, might just be like, maybe they'll just go for a completely, purely utilitarian house, right? Like it's got a front door, it's got a place to sleep, it's got a kitchen, uh, you know, I'm good, right? Like, but if you want something more, if let's say you want something beautiful, maybe you want something with a certain design, maybe you want a certain type of kitchen, right? Like this is all stuff you get to open into. And also when it comes to taking care of yourself And that is part of self-care, is not just, get a massage when your back's about to go out, right? Like self-care is, how about a massage every 2 weeks? How about a regular massage? You know, um, Someone who feels that it's greedy to want excess money would think that that's greedy, and it's not. It's called really creating your abundance. Because actually, when you do your self-care for the aspect of nourishing yourself, nourishing your soul, nourishing your body, you're actually adding to your abundance. You actually create abundance, more abundance, the more that you pull all the stops for yourself. So that could look like, certain body treatments, certain healthcare rituals, right? It could even look like investing in support, investing in a coach, a mentor, so that you don't have to toil away at trying to figure out everything as you lone wolf your life as a light worker, right? There's so many ways it can look like. But that is the number 4 money blocking belief, is that it's greedy to want excess money. So now here's what you can do if you're ready to upgrade your abundance. And before I go into that, show of hands, who has either believed at one point or currently believes any of those 4 money blocked or 4 outdated money beliefs? Raise your hand. And I'm not going to shame you. It's just reality, right? Because we've all been there. So if you have been, or you currently feel like you believe any of those outdated money beliefs, yeah. I see you, Leslie. I see you, Lynn. I see you, Mystic Marion, and Lindsay Nicole and Karen. Yep. Yeah. See? And this is beautiful, because you can only shift and transform when you know what's really going on, what you're really feeling, what you're really believing. Because just because you believe it doesn't mean it's true. It's called a belief for a reason. Okay? Belief does not mean reality. Belief means a belief that you learned probably as a child, or maybe if you had poverty consciousness in like a different lifetime, came from there too, right? And then you brought it in here, and now you're like confused why you're not making money, right? Because of a belief. But beliefs are not fact. They are not reality. So, this is why this is so beautiful. Oh, I love this. Just Lovely said, I am ready to change my perspective on money. Yes, yes, do that. Do it. And awesome. I love that, right? And she already got 4 likes on that comment. See, you're getting support. See, this is what happens when you are truly honest with yourself of where you're at, of what you're believing, what you are feeding your mind, which is why I'm always saying, stop watching mainstream news, because that's a whole other live topic altogether. But my point being is that check yourself with what you are feeding your mind and your heart, right? Super important. Okay, I'm reading some of these comments. It all starts with us and the relationship we have with yourself. Make that beautiful and nourishing, and abundance will flow. Not only that, but our abundance can serve others in so many ways. Absolutely. And the reality is that when you are in your abundance, in all of it, not just love and joy and health, but also your wealth, you can make a bigger impact. And that's really, that's the game I'm playing, right? Is that, I am making money already, right? I'm making good money, and I also have goals to make even more. And the reason why is because the more money I have, the more access I have, the more impact I'm going to make, the more I'm going to be able to upgrade the experiences for my clients. It's like you get to look at the trajectory here, right? And have a healthy relationship with money. Yeah, it's good to know this. Rachel's sharing, I had to admit that I'm afraid with being abundantly prosperous with money. Yeah, and that's good to know, right? It's good to know this. So here are some ways you can upgrade your abundance mindset, should I say. your abundance approach. So number one, see money as neutral. It really is. And even for all that, like all the fiat currencies and all that, like you are a light worker. You can transform all of this darkness into light, right? So instead of saying, oh my God, like, the Matrix, it's like transform that shit. You've got the power to do that, right? Like, so transform all this stuff. And one of the ways you can do that is just, transforming it into light, because that's really what we get to do as light workers, right? We get to transform everything into light. And it's not just on a healing level, like just, one-to-one work, right? It's also with when you receive money, you encode that with your service, with your work of light. And when you receive that money as a being of light, you are encoding it with your frequencies of light into that money. And then you spend it on, let's say, a bill or your groceries or something else. You are then circulating that money of light. So just really let that sink in for a little bit, right? Like you can transform this whole money's dark and evil and all this other stuff. Like just transform it, right? Don't give it so much power. I'm reading a comment here. Investing in massage therapy was the scariest thing, only because I was finally investing in my physical body, and there was such a deep belief that it was quote unquote evil. It's here to be transmuted. Yes. Yes. Transmute that. Okay. Number two, what you can also do, see money as an energy, right? Like money, abundance, everything is energy. Our bodies are energy. My necklaces are energy. My earrings are energy. Like I am energy. You are energy. This chair and table that I'm at right now, it's all energy. Technically, it's just vibrating a lot slower than a lot of other things, right? But it's still energy. And the reality is that so is abundance, so is money. And it's energy. And if you are a light worker, if you say you work with energy, if you say you work with light, then work that energy. Work it as energy instead of making it this story of like, oh my God, all this money, right? Like just, like it's not heavy. It doesn't need to be heavy. So it's just work that energy, right? Number three, realize that abundance comes from God. I said this earlier, right? And as an extension of God, you are a divine creator of abundance and money. You are that money generator, right? Because you are this divine extension of God. And actually, you are a God, right? And when you know this and you realize that God is abundant, God is unlimited, right? You are in that be all energy, like truly unstoppable. And so that abundance, when you're really tapped into it, and this is something that I go even deeply with my clients, especially in the activations, because sometimes I might do a training on the whole money stuff, but like it really will come through the activations, even if it might look like, focusing on like a specific upgrade, the money will also come in as well a lot of times, right? And activating that in your primary timeline on a regular basis, super powerful. It just like keeps you in that frequency. So realize that you are also a divine creator and therefore a creator of abundance and money. You literally are that. So you don't need to see yourself as like, oh, it comes from the government. It comes from outside of myself. It comes from my clients. No, it comes from you, right? It comes from you. Number four, shift from the scarcity mindset to the abundance mindset. So just really like take a little mental inventory, or maybe you want to journal it, some of your beliefs around money, and then take a look at that. Take a look at your beliefs around money and then say, that's an abundant mindset, or Hmm, that's a scarcity mindset, right? And just get really honest with yourself for the purpose of learning what gets to transmute, because you don't know, you can't transmute anything you're not aware of, right? So shift that scarcity mindset into an abundance mindset. The scarcity mindset being, there's not enough to go around. There's not enough for me. Everyone gets it but me. Everyone has money but me, right? Or I need to choose. I need to choose between having money and being spiritual, right? That's also another belief. So that's a scarcity mindset. And then the abundance mindset is there's enough to go around. I am money, right? You are divine, and therefore abundance and money also comes from you. It does come from you. And that is the abundant mindset of like, there's enough to go around. There's enough for me. Just because someone else has a lot of money doesn't mean there's less for me, right? Like I also can have that amount of money if I want, right? And that reality can only manifest if you truly believe it. Excuse me. And number 5, understand the difference between taking action and working hard. There's a difference. And realize that making money gets to be easy. It doesn't need to be hard. It doesn't need to be hard. You get to take action on things. You get to apply yourself. You get to take certain steps to set things up, right? But you don't need to work until midnight until your bones are popping out of your knuckles, right? Like, I mean, white knuckling your experience, right? It doesn't need to look like that. Open up into the frequency of it's easy to be abundant. It's just really easy. And number 6, transform outdated beliefs that it's greedy to want excess money with it is safe for me to make a lot of money. It is safe for me to make excess money. It is safe for me to make more money than I need. Those are some ways you can shift that. And don't say it just to say it, right? Like, because if you just say it and then nothing's happening, it's like because you don't believe it, right? So when you say it, make sure you believe it deep in your soul. That, like, yes, I get it. I feel that. Yes, right? That's how you start to shift this. And so that is what I wanted to share with you today. The topic today being about the top 4 money beliefs that block light workers from money. And I covered what it looks like when you don't have a healthy relationship with money, when you do have a healthy relationship with money, when you're a light worker, the 4 money beliefs that block light workers from money, and what you can do if you're ready to upgrade your abundance. And so go ahead and I'm going to take a few questions, just a few, because we're almost at the top of the hour. And I'm always trying to like make it a briefer training, but it's just, it's an engaged, wonderful experience. So let me know if you have any questions particularly about this topic. And yes. Real Talk Redhead says, it is safe for me to make more money than I need. I receive this. Yes. Yes. It has been put out into the universe. Good, good. And I want to give you a heads up. I'm not going to give you the nitty gritty just yet, but check it like around Thursday, I think I will be making a very special announcement that will help you to really transform all this stuff around money, right? So that you can be abundant and really connect with it really deeply. So I'm going to share something with you come Thursday. So make sure you have your eyes peeled. Make sure you check out my social media on Instagram or Facebook, or if you're on my email list, I'll be making an announcement there. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. I love this reframe. It is necessary for me to make more money than I believe I need. And I love that you use the word I believe I need, right? Because there's also a belief system there of like, oh, I only need this much, right? I don't need to be greedy. I only need this much, right? you get to have as much as you want. You don't need to choose. Okay. So someone's asking, saying, it's just so fun and I appreciate how the work makes me feel. Do I make payment in the beginning or at the end? I'm not sure I know what that's in reference to. But yeah, if you have any questions, let me know about this particular topic. And I will be going live again next week on, let's see, just want to make sure I'm looking at the correct date here. Is that right? Monday the 16th. Yeah, Monday the 16th is next week, and I will be doing a live on there. And yeah, make sure that you check us out for that live, and also make sure that you look out for my special announcement. Okay. And you're saying ask for, so asking for payment at the beginning of the end of what? I'm still totally confused by the question. So let me know if you have any questions. And so, by the way, that is not me who's scamming people, okay? So don't be putting stuff out that's not true, because the reality is that there are a lot of scammers who are copycatting my account. And that is not me. So use your judgment and be spiritually discerning, okay? Because this is my only account. So okay. Guilt when it comes to receiving payment. How do I navigate that? Okay, so that's the piece around receiving money, right? So you get to allow yourself to be willing, like get to yourself to a place of being willing to receive money, right? And I'm just going to put this. Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. Reporting every scammer, says Matliad. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So yeah, so it's really about this piece around letting yourself receive. So first of all, get curious why you're not letting yourself receive, right? Like why am I not allowing myself to receive money? And then you might get curious, like maybe it was someone who raised you who had a certain perception of like, don't take that money, or it was bad for you to take that money, or you're greedy if you want money, right? Like look out for whatever the story was that you learned that receiving money was bad. And just like get curious about it, and then once you do, you're going to start unearthing what's really behind that. And then once you get really behind what that is, then once it's in your awareness, then you get to transmute it, and just really be like, okay, I get that, so and so was trying to teach me based on their perceptions around money, right? And it may not be in my best interest moving forward, especially if I'm a spiritually conscious entrepreneur who's here to help change the world, to not accept money. Okay. Someone is asking for spells to manifest financial abundance. That's not what you're going to get here. I'm talking about frequency. Okay. And it's about really connecting with your consciousness. It's not about spells. So make sure that you really connect with the reality that you get to shift from a mindset, a consciousness that is outdated into one that is about the new earth, right? And if you really are a new earth leader, you are really opening up into the new paradigm, not the old one, right? It's really about the shift in consciousness. So glad this is helpful for you. Okay, and I think I'll take maybe 2 more questions. So I see one here. How do you go about charging the correct amount? Basically, how can I know I'm charging enough or not enough? Well, the reality is you get to get super, super clear about your offer. Get super clear on the value of your offer. And the reason why Lightworkers don't charge enough, like historically, they don't charge enough. Like, so they'll do like a Reiki session for like $40. And it's like, you should really, charge the level of transformation you're worth, right? Because, and you've heard me say it before, when you undercharge, you will get people who don't value you. You will get clients who don't value your work. You will get clients who are shopping around. That's what you'll get. When you don't value yourself, you will receive clients who reflect that back to you. But when you are charging your worth, and it's not about charging enough, right? Like even that phrasing gets to shift, right? Because it's not about charging enough. It's about charging the level of transformation. And so that's like a whole consciousness mindset, right? Connecting with your value, connecting with the level of transformation that is in your offer, right? Versus time per dollar, which is very old paradigm. And where we're entering into now, it's really part of the new paradigm to be like connected to the level of transformation that you provide, the value of who you are, right? And also knowing your value. Because if you're like, oh, I don't know, like maybe I do good stuff, like if you're still in that, then you get to shift that and really embody the whole, yeah, this shit works. I do this and then this happens and it's amazing, right? Like, I mean, you get to take ownership of the value you provide, the value and the transformation you provide, and that you also value yourself. Because a lot of times when light workers undercharge, it's because they don't value themselves. So, and that's part of the inner work, right? You get to value yourself. And if you don't, get curious and do the work as to why. Like, why do I not value myself? Right? So those are the starting points. And then you can go into, charging for the level of transformation you provide. Okay. All right. Okay, well, it looks like that was that for the questions. And it's time to wrap it up because I appreciate your time and being engaged and asking questions and making observations and contributing to the conversation. So, and this is what it takes. When you want to really make the shift in consciousness, it comes from a place of curiosity of like, well, what about this? Well, what about that? Or this is what I'm observing, right? Like, you're engaged with your process. And that's what it takes to really make that shift in consciousness. So I'm loving, like, wherever you're at with the whole money discussion situation thing, like all this engagement that you are taking to get curious of like, well, what about this? And what about that? Right? That creates shifts. When you get curious and then you are open to transform, you make shifts. And that's a really powerful thing because that's what light workers do. Okay. So that said, look out for my special announcement this Thursday on social media and also on my email list. If you're on my email list and my email community, if you're not on my email community yet, then you can actually get your free Starseed Power Activation gift, which in Instagram is in my bio. It's one of the links in my bio to get your free Starseed Power Activation gift. And when you do that, you will be added to my community, my email community, and you will get all these nuggets and wisdom and all that. So yes, beautiful. So I look forward to seeing you when I make that special announcement on Thursday, and I will see you next week at the Rise Up with Margarita show. And make sure that you check things out on Thursday for my special announcement because you're going to want to join us. Okay, everyone, much love, light, and power to you this week.